Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome VMware CTO Americas, Chris Wolf.
I haven't even done anything yet. Why are you even clapping? You're too nice. You're too nice. All right, we got a lot to cover today in terms of the announcements we had made this morning regarding hyper-converged infrastructure. So we're going to try to move relatively quickly through a lot of the materials that we have here today, because our expectation is that you're going to have quite a few questions. So we want to make sure we have some time at the end for any questions that you may have. So what we're going to do is we're going to just provide an overview of where we're going from a hyper-converged infrastructure perspective. Then we're going to deep dive into our two different products in this area, okay, our EVO Rail and our EVO Rack products, and then we'll wrap things up towards the end here. Now, I wanted to just start with this, okay? I know, don't get all VMworld on me and say, oh, he has a fluff slide, we're out of here. Just bear with me for a second, okay, and hear me out. When I go out in the field and I'm talking to our customers, right, and folks at the CIO, CTO level that are doing these direct engagements with business units, they can care less what the software is in their data center. They don't care, right? The business units they support, they aren't saying, you better run VMware or we're out of here, right? Or we're going to the cloud. We're going to vCloud Air if you don't run VMware in a data center. They're not saying that. Right? What they're saying is, how do you give me more agility for our applications? How do you support this new marketing initiative where we're running this mobile application? Right? How do you do this quicker? Even if I'm a small business, right? How do you give me the appearance where I look like I'm a big enterprise? Right? I have to keep the lights on 24/7. My applications have to always be up. Right? And how do you do all this by lowering costs? Right? How do you keep costs down at the same time? And what a lot of organizations are finally figuring out is the cost game is about total cost of ownership, right? It's not, let me take all of the pieces and parts from the lowest bidders, I'm going to throw them over the wall to IT operations and say, okay, it's your problem now, right? We've done it that way for a long time, and we've gotten things done, right? But in the cloud era, where the game's about agility, right, we're starting to move on from those things. Now, if we think about it and we compare to public and private clouds, right, and how some of these are architected today, right? Look at the public cloud architectures, right? It's low-cost, commodity x86 hardware. That's for your servers, your storage, your networking components. It's a homogeneous virtual infrastructure layer. It's a purpose-built management stack. And we start to compare that with private cloud, right? And it looks a lot different. There's many more pieces and parts. There's more variables. There's a mix of different hardware solutions. And you could say, rightfully so, right? In some cases with private cloud, I need these things. Right? Because I need enterprise hardware because I'm running applications on there that have a higher performance SLA, or the applications are not written for resiliency, so I need to make up for that resiliency deficiencies in the hardware. And that's perfectly viable, right? And that's why we're going to continue to see rich hardware solutions in the data center for a long time. But that all said, there's better ways of doing things. Right? When we think about the goals or the things that we're trying to really support, that our developers care about, that our business units care about, the goals are the same. But the way we've been doing some of these, or the way we've been approaching these problems is fundamentally different. And some of it, guys, right, it's our inner nerd, right? For me as an early technologist, right, I used to have a lot of pride in writing a script and solving a problem. I felt really smart at the end of the day. But what's happening now is some of this, there's a shift that's going on, and I'm going to get back to that in a second. Just some food for thought, because we've actually seen this before in our history. Now, think about electronics. My introduction to technology was actually as a US Marine, and I was doing component level repair on circuit boards. And when I could fix something, when I could find a transistor that was bad on a circuit board and replace it, man, I felt really good at the end of the day. But you know what happened? The industry shifted. Right? This is what electronic technicians do today. They're not soldering components on circuit boards for the most part. They're just pulling the board out. Why? Because agility required it. Availability required it. I can't sit around and wait for somebody to fix a problem for 2 hours, right? Just throw another card in there and be done with it. The technicians that evolved their skill set into this kind of model, right, are still employed today. I live in New Jersey, the birthplace of Bell Labs. A lot of the technicians that kind of held on to their old way of doing things, they're not even working in their field anymore. Right? Some of them, they might be selling you a home if you come to New Jersey, right? They're a real estate agent, or there's something else, but they're not doing what they had been doing. Right? And that's the shift that we're in right now, where we have to start thinking about things a little bit differently, right? And that's part of the keynote this morning about being brave, right? Bravery is letting go. Yeah, you know what? Solving these little minutia problems was really interesting for a long time, but the world's changing, right? Think about what you do, what your everyday job is, and ask yourself, is everybody else doing the exact same thing? If they are, I would say that that's what I would call a commodity IT service, right? Storage provisioning, server provisioning, compute provisioning, security provisioning, and updating. Those are things that every business in the entire world has to do. Why are we all trying to build our own instances of that from scratch? Where's the business value in that? I'd say it's not there, right? What we want to be thinking about is, how do I get this delivered as software that can easily be updated, almost like an iOS-like experience, right? And if I can let go of these things I used to build that's exactly the same as everybody else, although my implementation might be slightly different, I actually get time back to do more interesting things. If I'm a security administrator, instead of writing firewall rules based on IP addresses, I have more time in my day now to research emerging threats and emerging countermeasures and new techniques to keep my applications more secure. That's how I should be spending my time, right? Not doing the mundane stuff that everybody has to do around the world. So that's this evolution that we see, and that's what we're trying to help our customers with the EVO product line, is release them from dealing with some of this mundane stuff that is non-differentiating, so you can focus on what really matters to the business units you support. So with SDDC, right, we see this as a great platform to get you there, because I can take on these commodity x86-based approaches, I can run my software-defined data center, I can redeploy applications in different clouds, I can redeploy applications with an outsourcer or even a different private data center, all while giving me that centralized management and portability for my applications. So at the end of the day, and you'll see this in the Docker session I have later, right, application portability is really important, but I still have this infrastructure and service stack, and I need to make that pretty easy too. That's part of the value that we see through software-defined data center today. But as many of you know that have already been, gotten on this path, right, trying to make SDDC real, right, have this software stack is not an easy thing to do, right? There's a lot of challenges with SDDC, right? Just the initial setup. Again, I'm trying to define my service stack, right, in software, right? I'm trying to do automated provisioning, lifecycle management, and support. And again, keep in mind, this is not just a VMware vision. Look at other major cloud providers out there. They're trying to do the exact same thing, and they're recruiting a lot of talent right out of the leading colleges to help them drive these initiatives. So for an average enterprise, right, where you may not be able to recruit some of the same folks, this is not always that easy to do. There's some different approaches to make this happen as well. And we think these are all very valid today, and they're going to continue to be valid for a long time. There's the build your own approach. Let me just come up with my own hardware solution because I might have some very unique requirements. I'm going to go that route. There's the converged infrastructure approach, which a lot of our clients continue to use today and are very successful. I met with a CIO who said he had 65 server integration engineers. And he asked me, he said, why am I doing that? And usually like with a CTO role, you want to say something intelligent. I'm like, I don't know, good question. Why are you doing that? And he's like, yeah, I want to get out of that business, right? My team should not be just integrating servers. And this is where those converged infrastructure solutions from a lot of our partners have saved people a lot of time. I can just drop these things in, I have one support call, off I go, right? Now the hyper-converged infrastructure, we're going to have pre-integrated virtualization software, right? You still get that single point of entry, very easy, rapid deployment for SDDC. Now with the choice, again, if you want that maximum customization capabilities to build your own is great. Converged infrastructure, very easy procurement, very easy support. Gives you a lot of the traditional enterprise components like a storage area network that you're used to, that your applications are supported on. And then with the hyper-converged approach, right, we get ease of procurement again. I can get these things racked and stacked very quickly, as you'll see in our demonstrations today. You get very design predictability, a faster time to deployment. Again, you get one support call, very simple SDDC lifecycle management. So again, it's not even just that initial deployment, getting that SDDC in very quickly, right, in a matter of hours, sometimes even minutes. But then when I have software updates, I'm getting those updates very quickly and very easily as well. Why? Because think about it, right? What do the public cloud providers do when they're trying to do massive scale, right, and do automation at very high degrees of scale while keeping availability up? They reduce the variables. So, right, so if we can take a lot of the variability out of a data center deployment, right, now we can have very predictable upgrades, very simple upgrades, very fast upgrades and fast deployments as well. What we're going to be focusing on here today will be the hyper-converged infrastructure components of these different choices. So let's start with the EVO family. And again, we're going to start at the top here and just continue to drill down. This is going to give you vSphere technology with vSAN as our key enabler to making this happen. Okay, so I'm using local attached storage in the products that are going to sit in this EVO family. You get a pre-configured, pre-integrated SDDC stack right? And this is going to come from pre-qualified partners. This is not coming from VMware. We are not a hardware vendor. We are not selling anybody hardware, okay? That's not what we do. That's not what we're ever going to do. I just want to make that crystal clear. My boss told me I had to make that crystal clear. So can somebody just, one person nod? I just need one nod. I got a nod. All right, thank you very much. That's acknowledgement. We're good. We're on the same page. I get simple, streamlined deployment again, ongoing management. These are the products that we're going to show. We're going to start, Mornay's going to come up and talk about EVO Rail. So again, I'm using, again, the components I mentioned, vSphere, vSAN, right? I'm going to have server built-in storage. These are 2U, 4-node appliances, right, that I can rack and stack. The initial scalability is 4. You see some of the initial use cases there on the bottom of the slide. What we'll provide a tech preview of is our vRAC solution, right, which this is designed for larger scale infrastructure as a service type components, where I want to be able to bring an entire rack of servers, an entire rack of infrastructure for a software-defined data center online in less than 2 hours. That's what vRAC will do for you. Now, again, the route to market here is going to be through partners. We are very prescriptive on the hardware that those partners will ship to guarantee the quality and reliability of these solutions. Mornay is going to double-click on that when he comes up. And again, for your sake, you get that pre-integrated offering. So let me go ahead and bring Mornay up on stage. Really one of the lead engineers and one of the folks that really led the initiative here at VMware to describe EVO Rail.
Thanks, Chris. So introducing EVO Rail. My name is Mornay van der Walt. I head up the EVO Rail group. We're part of the Emerging Solutions group within the SDDC division at VMware. So let's double click on our routes to market. I'm going to acknowledge what Chris said again. First and foremost, we're a software company. The only way we're going to be successful with EVO Rail is in collaboration with our key partners, and we announced those partners today. And over the coming months, we are working with other partners, and that list will grow. So we've structured this like a franchise model. It's not like your typical OEM model where the OEM just gets the software and they're sort of left to their own devices here. We're being very prescriptive. You go into your favorite fast food joint, coffee shop in the morning, and it's a franchise. They all look, smell, and taste the same. We're also going to provide you with a build recipe. That build recipe is mission critical. That's what's going to help you ensure consistency, uniformity. And because we're treating this like a franchise business, there's a lot of enablement collateral that are going to be handed over to the partners so that there is a consistent look and feel. But in addition to that consistent look and feel, we absolutely want differentiation across all the partners that are part of the EVO Rail family. So the qualified partners are responsible for supply chain, and these are the things they do incredibly well: source, build, fill, support, and sell. As Chris mentioned, this is not going to be on our price book. This is software pre-integrated with a very prescriptive hardware stack, and for that reason, it will only appear on the EVO Rail partners price book, and they will take it to market through their qualified distribution and value-added resellers. At the end of the day, it's all about the customer. The customer wins. Simplicity, single SKU, lower TCO, that choice through the broad ecosystem that are embracing EVO Rail, and one support call. So let's take a look at some of the key features. We're definitely taking a crawl, walk, run approach. One appliance, very prescriptive as your starting point. It's based on a 2U 4-node form factor. These are not blade servers. These are independent compute network storage nodes. In version 1, or the current version, we'll scale to 4 appliances. So that's a maximum of 16 ESX hosts, all backed by a single cluster, all serviced by a single vSAN data store. Automated scale out, and we encourage you to stop by the EVO Zone. You can see the product in action. We'll scale up automatically. The appliance will actually automatically detect as soon as the second, the third, and the fourth appliance come up on the network. General purpose server workloads. We've looked at what the average workloads are like in the data center, and we've basically modeled that. So for an appliance, a single appliance, 100 general purpose workloads. And if you look at VDI type workloads, 250. And we've done that without changing the hardware platform. You know, we want to make sure that we drive simplicity here and we reduce the amount of SKUs. This also helps the partners in the field from a serviceability point of view, as well as the support, you know, when calls come in. We want to be very prescriptive in the current version. Time to value in minutes. Once this is racked, cabled, and powered on, we can deliver time to value to first VM in less than 15 minutes. Non-disruptive patch and upgrade. You have 4 nodes within that appliance. That allows us to do some very creative things under the covers and guarantee no downtime to your virtual machines during planned maintenance. And primary use cases. We've just completed a very successful early access program. During this program, we obviously teased out some of our assumptions, and we believe the primary use cases in the current version will be VDI around 50 to 60%. We'll probably see around 25% making up remote office, branch office, and I'll come back to that one. And the remainder in the virtual private cloud. With vCloud Air, we've got an extensive partner ecosystem there, and there's some interesting use cases for VPC. Robo is actually the area I'm the most interested in because that's where we see incredible diversity. Part of some of our EAP customers, finance, insurance, healthcare, oil and gas, education, local, state, and federal government. So lots of opportunities there. So let's take a closer look at the hardware platform. I don't think everybody's familiar with these 2U 4-node platforms. They are becoming the rage, and thanks large part due to people like Google, Facebook, and others driving these very dense platforms into the data center. It's important to note if you look at the top, the picture in the top right-hand corner, 4 independent nodes. And so we're being very prescriptive on the type of CPUs, the memory allocation across the nodes. So it's an Intel E5 26V20. 192 gigs of memory, and that's based on the modeling we did, the 100 VMs and the 250 VMs per appliance. Virtual SAN is at the core of this, tightly integrated with vSphere. When you take all of that software and you fully integrated with the EVO Rail engine, this is what allows us to give you this fully integrated system. So because of the virtual SAN requirement, we've got a 400 gig SSD for read-write cache. We've married that to 3 1.2 terabyte hard drives, and that gives you 3.6 terabytes of data store for your virtual SAN per node. That gets you to, with your 400 gigs, that gets you up to 16 terabytes per appliance. And then the customer's choice is going to be very simple. Do I want copper or fiber for my interconnect up to that top of rack switch? And so we make that available, the partners will make that available over 10BASE-T or SFP+. What I'd like to do now is actually bring Dave Shanley up on stage, staff engineer and lead designer. He's actually going to take you through the product. We're going to show you the demo. Seeing is believing, so I'm going to hand it over to Dave.
Thank you, Morne. Hello everyone, my name is Dave Shanley and I'm the lead engineer of the EVO Rail Hyper-Converged infrastructure appliance. Today I'm going to give you a guided tour through this pre-recorded video. This is our introductory screen. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. First thing you have to do is accept the EULA. Can't get around this one unfortunately. So EVO Rail comes with a just go option. These are a set of predefined variables that allow you to just get up and start running. All you have to do is put in the passwords. However, for today's demo, we're going to take you into the configuration and show you how easy it is. First up, DNS. EVO Rail comes with its own internal DNS server, so you don't need to have an external DNS service to have fully qualified domain names. You can customize DNS by setting a host, a separator, an iterator, and a top-level domain. Any changes that you make will be reflected in real time. So, we've done this, let's move on and start taking a look at some of our networking. You have full control over your ESXi, vMotion, Virtual SAN, vCenter server, and your VM networks. To keep things simple, you don't have to go and configure each individual IP address for all the components. Instead, you create an IP pool. This allows ESXi to allocate IP addresses to groups of hosts. The minimum size of the pool is 4. This is because there are 4 hosts in an appliance. If you plan to expand your cluster at a later date, then you should increase your pool size by 4 per appliance that you plan to add to the cluster. You'll also notice that there's no save buttons. This is because everything you do is saved and validated in real time. so you can get real-time feedback of your settings. Now, if there is a problem, EVO Route will tell you exactly what the problem is, where you need to go to fix it by using red orbs in the categories and highlighting each of these different fields. You can have as many VM networks as you like. All you have to do is supply a name and a VLAN ID, or no VLAN ID. The only passwords you have to put in are those for your vCenter Server Administrator account and your ESXi root account. EVO Route does not store these passwords because it doesn't have its own database. Globals are settings that apply to everything. This includes your vCenter server and your ESXi hosts. We have made logging really simple. We bundle login site directly on the appliance. All you need to do is apply an IP address. We'll configure it for you. We'll install it first, obviously. Configure it, and we'll also license it. So there's nothing more for you to do. We've also included a couple of really useful tools on this particular section, which is the configuration. The first is being able to upload a configuration file. This means that you can deploy the same settings across multiple machines in multiple locations without having to go and customize it. The second is to be able to view the configuration logs if there's a problem. You just send it off to support, and you don't have to go digging in any consoles or terminals. So once you're happy, you can validate it. This takes a closer inspection of your settings and makes sure all the hosts can be reached, your IPs are going to work, and your appliance can be successfully configured. Moving on, this is where we build the appliance. All the really heavy lifting is being done here. The UI shows you exactly how much of the process has been completed, and it also shows you exactly which task is executing at the current time. As you can see, there are 4 main stages. The first 2 stages involve setting up DNS and unpacking and configuring vCenter server. There's a lot of steps involved, configuring SSO, database, etc., etc., etc. And this process these 2 stages take around 5 minutes. The next step is configuring the hosts. Now, these hosts are not set up. They don't even have an IP address. Normally, you'd have to use a console or a terminal or out-of-band management system to be able to access these hosts and configure them. But we have built our very own implementation of ZeroConf. So EVO Route can locate, connect to, and configure all of these hosts without them having any networking set up whatsoever. A bit like your home printer. There's over 200 operations being performed asynchronously here. This is the kind of stuff that takes hours and hours and hours. And then we're finally finalizing everything, cleaning things up, putting them away, and we're done. Fully built and fully configured, ready to start deploying virtual machines. So let's go and take a quick look at the EVO Route management interface and see just how simple that is. First of all, I should say again, we don't have our own database. We are built 100% on top of the vCenter server and ESXi APIs, or the Vim APIs for any engineers in the room. So this is our UI. Let's take a quick look at health. We've made it really simple to visualize your physical and your virtual health, both from a disk, CPU, NIC point of view, as well as your storage IOPS and your CPU and memory consumption. Again, it's really, really simple to get an idea of what's going on. Let's create a VM. First thing we have to do is give a guest OS. You can either upload that via your browser or use NFS or system out from a local server. So I'm just going to upload an ISO that I've previously downloaded. It's a very small Linux VM. Upload that. UI tells you that it's copied it over to the appliance, and now it's distributing it over the virtual SAN data store. Next up, we pick a version. We've boiled down to the top level ones. Next, let's pick a size. Now, we've created 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. These are sensitive to the guest OS that you've selected, so that it's not a one-size-fits-all. I'm going to go ahead and pick a small size here. Next, which VM networks do you want your VM to sit on? Pick as many as you like. Finally, security policy. These are advanced virtual machine settings that are defined in our vSphere hardening guide. We've built them, well, we've taken the risk profiles and turned them into policies. So I'm just going to select a default one here. Oh, of course, I've got to give it a name. Let's be creative. Lovely. So that's it. It tells you exactly the configuration you've defined on the left and how much of the process is completed on the right. Once the VM is built, it'll pop up on the grid, and you're ready to start using it. And there we are. It's done. And it pops up. So we can click on the VM to get some more options. We can instantly see a console, which we can click on again to get access to it, or we can use some of the very standard power operations and VM operations that you're used to. So I'll show you how simple it is to use those settings, and this is a renaming of a VM. So let's give it a new name. Again, it shows you something is happening, and it locks it so you can't break it. Now that the VM is created, let's go ahead and do something else. This time I'm going to clone it. So again, simple, simple, simple. You just have to give it a name and determine whether I want to power it on when it's cloned. Now this operation takes a little bit longer than a rename. So you can see where the progress bar has its value here. Also, you can just click outside the VM and it will collapse back down, and you can start doing operations on other VMs if you've got them. You can also filter and sort by various different settings, including guest type and health. So now I've got my two VMs. Let's go and upgrade. It's really simple. No VM downtime. You simply pick the bits that you want to upgrade. You upload them via your browser. You pick those of the ones you've uploaded, which you'd actually like to upgrade. That includes ESX and VC and the EVO Route engine. And you're done. No downtime. No CLI commands. So, expanding. This is the fun part. It's as simple as really getting an appliance straight from the factory, railing it in, and cabling up and powering it on. When it powers on, it starts to beacon, and the existing appliance recognizes it. You don't have to do anything else. Once we're ready, we simply click Add Appliance. Now, we've already created our IP pool, so we have more than enough IP addresses for our new appliance because we created it with a certain size. The only thing I have to do is put in my passwords. Again, we don't store them. And that's it. It is now connecting to the new appliance. It's applying the same configuration you have on your existing appliance. It's completely automated and hands-off. You can just walk away and come back when you're done, or when you're done with something else. And this is almost done. We're almost there. 6 minutes this takes. And your appliance has now been added. You have just clustered two appliances together with barely touching the keyboard. No configuration required. So that's about it from me. Thanks very much for your time. I'm going to hand it back to Mornay now.
Thanks, Dave. So global reach and customer choice. The team and I, as well as VMware, are incredibly proud with this list of partners. In the current version, all of these partners are behind EVO Rail. And during the second half of this year, you'll be able to go to your preferred partner and actually purchase the EVO Rail appliance. So just some key points and to summarize. Global reach and choice, very important to us. To emphasize what Chris and I have also said, we're not a hardware company. The success of this is bound to the success that we make our partners in bringing this to the market. 100% powered by VMware. vSphere with Virtual SAN, with the EVO Rail software engine, bringing all those components together, give you the simplicity in deployment, configuration, and management that Dave has just demonstrated. Simplified purchase, single SKU procurement model, as well as one support call to make. And then, as I said earlier, appliances available through the second half of this year. Different partners obviously running at different speeds, so check with your preferred partner on their availability. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Chris.
Thanks, Mornay. Okay, next thing we want to talk about now is a tech preview of our EVO Rack solution, which again is going to follow the EVO Rail product line, which, as Mornay had mentioned, is going to be available second half of this year. So really what we're trying to do with EVO Rack is take the same benefits you just saw with Rail and now extend that out to provide simplicity for an entire rack of servers, right? So to give you the same benefits from a ease of deployment, ease of upgrade, ease of maintenance at a larger scale. So again, now I'm getting data center scale hyper-converged infrastructure, just like with EVO Rail. This will come from pre-qualified partners. You're going to get that simple SDDC deployment and management. Same concept here. Very simple lifecycle management, upgrades, and patches. You get capacity planning across the software-defined data center. You get integrated management for both your logical and physical resources, which will be delivered by VMware and our partners. You'll get the configuration and provisioning end-to-end of that network infrastructure as well. We can have an SDDC up and running in less than 2 hours with our EVO Rack solution. Lots of use cases here as well. These can include things like VDI, larger scale VDI. If I want to do infrastructure as a service, so I want to drop in a private cloud, or even if I'm a provider and I just want to have very simple linear IaaS to deploy and maintain, the EVO Rack solution is going to provide that for you. Also supporting solutions such as platform as a service and big data down the road. Again, there might be other smaller scale use cases that you're even thinking of in terms of starting points for some of these. Like you might say, well, this is kind of new technology, so maybe I'm going to start with development and test first. Right, and then I'll evolve up the stack from there. So if we look at the components of EVO Rack, it's going to start with the vCloud suite. So that's our vSphere and our vRealize cloud management platform. It's our virtual SAN technology as well as NSX for network virtualization and security. Now we have management components that will sit with that as well. That includes our EVO Rack system management and switch management components, plus our virtual rack manager software, which I'll show you what that looks like shortly. If we dig into the suite architecture, again, in each node, I'm deploying vSphere, vSAN, and NSX. I'll have my hardware management manage and govern the deployment of that. On top of the stack, the specific management components will include vCenter operations, Log Insight, vCloud Automation Center, as well as the EVO Rack Manager that I mentioned before. So again, I can continue to scale this out, have that single pane of glass centralized management to continue to add multiple racks to my data center with this solution. Again, this is going to give me auto provisioning, auto configuration. Again, I can stand up a new rack just from the time I ship it and have it stood up to being fully online and supporting virtual machines in under 2 hours. Now to go through the actual management interface here, again, you're just going to see simple HTML5-based management console where I can log in. I'll enter my configuration information. So this would include my rack name, company name, department. I can go through my initial network configuration as well and save that. I can put in my vMotion information. And what you see across the top here, this would allow me to configure vSAN management, any external connectors as well. I mean, obviously, if I'm doing infrastructure as a service, I'm going to have third-party integrations that I'd also be pulling in here. Once I have all of that done, now I'll simply get my review screen. This will show all of my initial settings, and I can go ahead and click Connect. I'll get through that initial system configuration, and I'm finished. Once that's deployed, now what you see here is the vRack dashboard. This is showing my current resources and what my capacity will be. I can double-click and go over to topology, look at a deeper view of the actual topology across the vRack architecture as well. So again, just like what Mornay had mentioned before with Rack, we're building and distributing SDDC through our partner ecosystem. These will be using pre-qualified partner configurations where, again, we are very specific in terms of the configurations that the partners are shipping so that we can ensure, right, that you're getting a consistent experience no matter when you order something or how frequently. I know a lot of you in the room have seen this before, right? Just deploying a vSphere cluster, you order the same version of the server from the same hardware vendor at the same time, and you say you order 12, 2 of them might have a slightly different hardware spec just on the motherboard, and that can create some challenges for inserting drivers and things like that. So we're dictating hardware configurations to a very high degree of granularity to ensure that you don't have any of those types of issues. So again, what we're going to be doing in terms of some choices here, you'll have Open Compute Project from ODMs, supported solutions as well. So that's rack-mounted standard form factor servers with direct attached storage. That would include top-of-rack and management switches. We'll have selected partner configurations as well that we will be shipping. So that's going to, again, be on standard form factor servers. And then we'll also have some software extensions for converged infrastructure providers. Again, we've had converged infrastructure solutions from a lot of partners in the hardware space for a number of years. A lot of our customers really know those solutions and trust them really well. We're going to continue to support that with our vRack technology, or EVO Rack technology, as I was. Now what I want to do is just show a video from Cole Crawford, who's going to discuss our Open Compute integration.
Project Foundation. As many of you know, the Open Compute Project is a community-led nonprofit laser-focused on increasing the pace of innovation and driving gratuitous differentiation out of the data center. OCP customers and businesses worldwide continue to demand flexible and scalable hardware for the mission-critical workloads they deploy. So I'm extremely delighted to help VMware announce their joining of the Foundation as our newest gold member. This announcement further validates not just the Open Compute Project, but the hard work we're doing together. Today, VMware is directly supporting certain qualified OCP configurations through Project Linear, a hyper-converged infrastructure offering which aligns perfectly with the core tenets of the Foundation and our mission. It is this strategy that allows us to move forward with the software-defined data center and enable businesses to focus on core consumer value and grow with agility. Over the next few months, we will be working with VMware to expand the capabilities of our solution providers as Project Linear is rolled out. Additionally, I'm very proud to announce VMware's plans to contribute source code for OCP-based data center infrastructure management in early 2015. Thank you again to VMware and all of you for helping us drive industry-redefining philosophies and technologies into our industry.
Okay, if you haven't seen also, Ray O'Farrell, who leads engineering at VMware, also has a blog post on our Open Compute Project initiative and what we're doing there. Like several of you that know me, I think that the bottom line here is what we need to do as a company, and hopefully what you're seeing from VMware is we're not just talking about our open integration through product marketing, we're talking about it through very specific actions, whether that be contributions to Open Compute or whether that be contributions to OpenStack, et cetera. What we have here is just a list for more information where you can go deeper into additional breakout sessions. So that includes an overview of EVO Rail, more hyper-converged infrastructure deep dives. You see some of those later today. We also have additional sessions tomorrow that you can check out, including integration that we do with NSX. So if you're looking for deeper insights on how this looks from a network virtualization perspective, I would encourage you to attend that session on Wednesday. Just to go again over the key benefits here and talk about some of the primary use cases that we have, right? So again, the benefits that we see, you get a pre-configured, pre-integrated software-defined data center stack, right? So I can get this software into my data center, I can be up and running, supporting private cloud type initiatives or highly virtualized and automated initiatives very rapidly. And the idea here is to not take people's jobs, it's to free them to do things that are more important to the business units you support, right? And the market is going to go here, whether we want to get dragged kicking and screaming or whether we want to lead the charge. If you look at software developers, when their central IT unit is not providing the services they need, they vote with their feet, right? They find a public cloud provider that can give them these types of services as a checkbox. And it's our job, right, to meet those levels of agility. We're trying to do the same thing here, whether you're a provider, whether you're in a traditional IT data center. I mean, the market is going to go this way because agility is requiring it. And again, this is not doing anything that's super special, right? It's just again, it's taking care of all the commodity stuff that you used to have to maintain that really wasn't that exciting, but it was just part of your job. And now you get to research and do more innovation and really help drive your company forward. Again, design predictability, right? Simple deployments and updates. Again, think about getting that iOS-like experience now for your data center infrastructure software, where when there's new updates that come down, no problem. I can just pull those down from VMware. That gives me an easy way to do that update of that software. And now whatever partner integrations that would exist, those would almost be like apps on your iPhone, right? I can now pull those down too as a new version comes up. So it's just a completely different mindset in terms of how you'd be deploying and managing software in your data center. Again, we get the scale, we get the faster time to value as well. You see some primary use cases here, like Mornay had mentioned, I had mentioned earlier as well. Again, the use cases are always up to you, right? Think about it this way. A lot of the stuff that you're running in a data center, right, you might be thinking about, let's go one size fits all, I'm going to architect for a 4.5.9 SLA. Right? And that's where a lot of your architecture decisions have happened. But now think about some other workloads that you have. Tier 4 applications. I'll give you a Tier 4 application could be something like a back-end IT reporting tool. Right? It's non-customer facing. If it's down, who cares? Right? I mean, we care, but we don't care as much. Could I run that on probably even a 3.9 SLA? Absolutely. We're going to beat that kind of SLA with this infrastructure, but you might want to start out with something lower risk. Maybe it's supporting development and test, right? Where I can, again, same way you probably started VMware 10 plus years ago, right? I can start using these solutions there as well. Because again, It's something that's lower risk. It's not a customer-facing application. I can get started there as well. So these are some things to think about. Another way to think about this too. Think about the applications that are getting written, right? Platform 3 applications that are going to public cloud today. They are written with failure in mind, right? These platforms already have native resiliency built into them. If the application or the application platform is already resilient and using a scale-out architecture for performance, why am I going to run it on hardware that provides the same features, right? It's unnecessary redundancy. So that's another workload, right? That's another scenario where I can start to run those kind of workloads in my data center and do it more cost effectively, right? When I have applications or traditional applications that I can't meet a performance SLA, they're just traditional scale-up type applications, great. You know what? Some of our converged infrastructure partners have some really great solutions for you there. So this isn't an either or. You know, going forward, this is going to be an and. The bet that we think with software-defined data center, right, over time, right, we're going to be able to run more and more workloads on some of these native SDDC type solutions. So it's a good time to just start to get some of this in now, right, do some of those early POCs, start to build some institutional knowledge on operating in this kind of business model in parallel to what you're doing with a lot of your traditional enterprise hardware partners today. So again, it's a mix of the two solutions that you'll operate in for a very long time, probably more than 10 years. But it's a great time to go ahead and get started. Why? Because it's going to save you money, it's going to make you more efficient, it's going to free you to do more important things. You know, and in that light, you know, I hear this a lot. Some of you might have seen this already if you've heard me present. You know, we have to lose the cape, right? We have to stop defining what it means to be a hero, right? Solving a very low-level minutia problem that is technically a commodity, right, that every business in the world has to face, doesn't really make you a hero anymore today. It makes you feel really smart, right? But heroism is about really embracing change and thinking about how do I make my business operate faster. It's about integrating modules from brands you trust, right, rather than simply trying to build them yourself. You know, I can go to Radio Shack and I can buy a kit and I can build a radio from scratch. But why on earth would I actually do that when I go to Walmart and buy one for 10 bucks? Right? It just does, the whole concept doesn't even make sense. And I think in the future, as we start to look back on some of these integrated solutions that we can just get and we can just kind of interconnect and plug in together, we're going to start to think, why did I ever do it that way? Because this is just so much easier. And I think that's the transition that we're about to face here in IT and as IT practitioners. To that point, we need to obsess over speed. This is really what our job is about. It's how quickly can we continue to move forward, because speed is the competitive advantage, right? Innovating faster than other folks in your industry vertical. We want to be an innovation champion even if it's not our innovation. The quote that I like to bring up comes from Salman Khan. Do you know Salman Khan? He's the founder of Khan Academy. What he would do is he started Khan Academy by just teaching family members basic things like certain ways to do math. And he kept having to give the same lessons over and over and over again. So one day somebody came up to him and said, why don't you just record the lesson on YouTube and then you don't have to keep giving the same thing over and over again? You know what he said? He said, that's a stupid idea. Who would ever watch a YouTube video to learn something? So, you know what he did? He went home. And what he said to himself was, I have to get over the idea that it's not my idea, and it's okay. Right? We don't have to be the inventor of all things. We have to think about what are already out there at our disposal that can make our lives easier. That's what Salman Khan did. And once he let go, right, that was the point where Khan Academy really flourished and took off. And he's like, wow, yeah, I'm really onto something here. But he had to let go of that initially. You know, finally, you want to choose a strategic partner for your journey. Right? We're on a really disruptive time in IT. You know, we've talked about, you know, mobile and web and cloud a lot, Internet of Things. Right? There's lots of change going on. So, not saying VMware or not, right? But pick the right partner. Pick long-term partners that can get you through this journey. All right. Thank you very much. We have about 10 minutes or so left. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. Mornay, can you come back up? Any questions? Okay, right here.
Hey guys, how you doing? Quick question, Larry Grant, Vanguard. You got rid of vCenter in the GUI. Is there a roadmap to incorporate that back in? I'm just getting used to the web interface, and looks like you're taking it away.
So vCenter is actually still there. If you remember the one part of the demo when we had the dashboard up, top right-hand corner next to sign out, the vCenter icon was there. If you click on that, you're straight into vCenter. we have not replaced vCenter. In fact, we've integrated EVO Rail engine into vCenter. We're using the Linux version of vCenter, and so there's a full integration. And so, like Dave said during the demo as well, there's no shadow database. We're leveraging APIs, new APIs to the EVO Rail engine that write directly via vSphere as well as the VC APIs. So if you're very familiar with the web client, it's one click away.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, very good question. Glad you asked that. Yeah, vCenter is not going away. We just integrate with it. Next question.
Obviously, EVO Rack being a far bigger deployment, how does that play with your still ongoing relationship with VCE? Because it seems rather similar, other than vSAN being a different storage technology.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think that is one of the differentiators is using local attached storage and technologies like vSAN. And like we said, we will continue to support converged infrastructure solutions going forward as a part of that. So that would include the VCE relationship, among others. So it really boils down to customer choice, right? If I have applications that are going to benefit from a more traditional SAN and that type of SLA, then I would go the converged infrastructure route, right? If I'm running workloads where they operate just fine in a distributed local attached storage architecture like we have with vSAN technology, then I would pick that. You know, it really comes down to the types of applications I would say that you're going to run on the infrastructure more than anything else. Both have their place, and they're going to both have their place, I think, for a long time.
Let's take a question from this side.
Yes, and congratulations on the launch on EVO, and very glad to see that you've signed a number of partners for global, sort of availability. On the question about the recipe, given your focus for global availability, when you specify the specific component like the storage with a hard disk and SSD, do you go with a particular vendor's type of SSD or hard disk, or do you go for a specification of what those component must do?
It's more about the specification, because in the hardware business, supply chain is one of the hardest things. Mm-hmm. And there's always pressures. If it's memory, there's a flood in China or something, and you impact the factory. So we're going on the sizing, 400 gigs for the SSD, 1.2 terabytes for the hard disk, and where the qualified partners source those components from, that's ultimately their decision. Remember, we're using off-the-shelf 2U 4-node servers that these partners currently have in their portfolio today. So we're not dictating if it's from partner X or partner Y. It's the sizing that's more important. So like the Intel E5 2620, it's a 6-core CPU. Some partners are looking at going with the 26, I think it's a 30 or a 40. It's a slightly different flavor, 2.6 gigahertz CPU.
Excellent.
Over here.
Do you foresee linked mode as being a way to manage robo offices? And if you do, and you're using the appliance, you don't have that option today.
So in the current version, we are looking at the smaller deployments. So we said scaling up to 4 appliances. But we've got a lot of use cases already when we've spoken to our early access customers. You think of a robo retail type deployment. There's some retailers out there with 8,000 stores worldwide. So to go and manage those as point products would be challenging. So, stay tuned.
That's an area we've given a lot of thought. That is something that's important to a lot of our customers.
It's alternate, guys, so everybody gets a chance.
Thank you very much. You spoke a little bit about the high availability feature of EVO with regards to upgrading to a new version of virtual infrastructure. Can you speak more about the high availability features of the EVO Rail and rack with regard to storage, the management services on the top of the rack, node failure?
Sure. So I'll talk about Rail, because that's what I'm responsible for, and rack is still in a tech preview, so I don't want to talk out of turn. So it's a 2U 4-node box, right? And we're saying we're going to do an upgrade that's going to be non-disruptive to your virtual machine. And the way we can do that is through orchestration. We can leverage, core technologies that are foundational in vSphere today, such as vMotion, DRS, and it's about the orchestration under the covers when you select to go and do that patch that allows you then to move workloads around. In terms of failure in the field, serviceability, we're collaborating with our partners on this. Different partners have different views. So we want to promote simplicity. So we're saying the boundary for failure is the node or an individual disk that's associated with the node. At no point in time do we want a partner going in, pulling out a node, opening it up, changing memory, CPU. Just like Chris demonstrated, it's about time to value and getting back up to speed. So rip, put in a new one and operate. And if you come over to the EvoZone booth, we can go into much greater detail on some of the serviceability and the HA capabilities of the appliance.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, over here.
Yep. I was wondering, are there any plans for stretch cluster support between the EVO Rack and the EVO Rail systems?
Early days, guys. Really? And I'm not going to commit to anything that could be on a roadmap because I'll get into trouble.
Gotcha.
So stay tuned.
Eric?
So you mentioned the vSphere vCenter appliance. Does that mean you're going to have the support for stuff like SRM and other plugin based?
Again, we're getting into some roadmap. I've got to stay, I've got to keep my product manager happy with me. So stay tuned. We're obviously going to be working very aggressively, from start, initial pitch to prototype to us launching today, 18 months. So we are truly moving fast and hard, and that roadmap is evolving very quickly.
And to double click on that, my biggest job as America's CTO is to meet with all of you and understand what you need, right? So these are the early days of the product. Tell us what you need in the order that you need them, right? You can go down to the EVO booth and let the team know. That's what they're there for, right? We are gonna bring these features out in the order in which it's most important to our customer base. So we need to hear from you. We really want to know, what is most important, and that's ultimately what's going to dictate the cadence of features that we roll into the platform. Over here.
Can you display the slide which shows the related sessions?
Sure.
Nothing like a shameless plug.
Okay, over here.
Can you speak to the update manager or upgrade manager? You mentioned that it's running on the appliance. That's not something that's available outside of...
So update manager is not involved in this. This is net new technology that we've written. Okay, and one of the things that we're doing as part of the emerging solutions group, a lot of what you're seeing in Rail and in the tech preview with Rack, the goal here is also to take some of that innovation across the rest of our portfolio. So yes, we were running fast and hard like a pseudo startup, and so we were off the reservation, but that allowed us to get to this point today. But the goal here as well is to take technology back in-house.
Thanks.
You're going to, just to mention that too, I mean, something you're going to continue to see from VMware from a strategy perspective is, look, if we look at when we're building new solutions, if we say, well, could we shoehorn it into this product, yes or no, maybe. If we're even having to give it a second thought, then to Renee's point, we're going to build better technology that can drive that forward. So it's, we're not looking forward anymore by looking at our existing portfolio. We're trying to look at your requirements first, and that's how we make our engineering decisions. So the company didn't always used to operate that way, but that is how we operate today.
If your applications are more storage capacity heavy, can you hook that to a traditional shared storage?
Absolutely, and I'm happy that question came up. This is all about, leveraging your existing investments. And we know that our customers have made significant investments in different storage platforms, converged infrastructure from, vBlocks with VCE, FlexPod. And so the appliance doesn't lock you out. If you need to add additional storage, we're absolutely going to, welcome that. Obviously, we need to be sensitive to the fact that these 2U 4-node platforms have limited PCI extension capabilities. So it's typically going to be an iSCSI or an NFS target.
So would it be going into vCenter and hooking to a VNXT or something?
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Fully supported.
Over here.
With the EVO Rail product, since it's a minimum 4-node, I'm assuming the essential licensing is out of the question. Is there any additional licensing changes with the EVO Rail coming in?
So this is a fully integrated appliance. A customer, and actually we didn't stress this enough, a customer cannot download the software components that make up the software bundle that we're calling EVO Rail. So there's obviously vSphere in there, there's Virtual SAN, there's Login Site, there's the brand new EVO Rail engine that does deployment, configuration, and management. That is not available to a customer. That software bundle is only available to our qualified EVO Rail partners because we believe part of the experience is that tight integration onto that very prescriptive hardware platform.
Okay, so the licensing cost is pretty much tied in when you buy the product.
Single SKU. So that single SKU gets you hardware, the software, as well as the support and services. Again, driving that simplicity. It's like when you go and buy an iPhone or your favorite smartphone. I'm an Apple guy, so I'm going to go, I want the latest iPhone. I want, it's white, silver, gold, 1632, 64 gigs. Who's my service provider? It's AT&T. I make those selections and I'm off to the races. It just works.
Okay, over here.
Yeah, thank you. Question on the EVO Rail with your OEM partners. You have quite a few of them, like Supermicro, Dell, Fujitsu. The question I have is there a specific, and I know you guys, you implicitly say it's software, but of your hardware vendor, are they going to put their value add to their hardware, or are they all pretty much the same level playing field, same price? Doesn't matter if I go with a Supermicro to you, or Fornode, or Fujitsu, it's all the same thing.
So differentiation is what's obviously going to be attractive to the customers that have made bets with their preferred partners. And we're not stopping that differentiation. Just like you can connect into an existing storage infrastructure, we are actually encouraging the partners to differentiate. And the list that we put up today, that's not complete. There's some things that are happening right now in the industry where those platforms are evolving as we speak. There's a new wave of CPU that will be announced shortly from Intel. Some of the partners want to buy into that. We want the partners to differentiate, expose, through SIM up through ESX and VC, all the goodness of those underlying platforms. And, we're welcoming that. And those collaborations are starting right now.
Thank you.
I guess just to expand on that, the support model that this is going to drive, what do you expect to do that for that one call, especially when you start talking about the Open Compute project and who do you call when there's some issue with? Do you call the hardware? Do you call the software?
Sure.
Is there going to be a special unit within that hardware vendor that knows about this software?
Great question. So I'm going to keep this to EVO Rail. I don't want to talk on behalf of the EVO Rack support model because that's still a tech preview. But for EVO Rail, remember this is going to be brought to market through those qualified partners, and you saw the list. And those qualified partners are going to take care of the level 1 and the level 2 software support. Level 3 would be escalated back channel up to VMware, and they are signing up for supporting the hardware components. So it'll be, call, 1-800, pick your favorite partner support line, and they're obviously getting trained up. That effort has already started, and so they know that this is on their price book. They've got to support it. So that's the convenience for the customer. It's a single support call, and then obviously the first thing you want to do is differentiate. Is it hardware, software, or both? And then obviously do the correct, routing of the call.
And that's going to be really your decision, right? It's many organizations have very specific preferences where you have a great relationship with a certain hardware partner, and when you trust their support, that's going to most likely dictate where you consume the technology from. Question over here.
So you're obviously going to be competing in the hyper-converged market. How does EVO Rail, what are the differentiating superiority factors over platforms like Nutanix?
So I don't want to say we're competing in the hyper-converged market, right? I want to say that those partners like Nutanix and Simplified are great partners of ours because if you look at them today, they pick a hardware platform, they pick a hypervisor. It's either VMware or it's a hypervisor from Microsoft. They've gone and built their own management UI. They've got their own distributed file systems that they layer on top. Typically, they're running as a guest on top of the ESX host. So it's a different type of architecture. With virtual SAN, we obviously have the benefit of that tight integration. And we're promoting more the convenience factor, that transformational experience end-to-end. If I'm a customer and I want to buy EVO Rail, I make two selections. Do I want general purpose or VDI? That's selection one. The second choice I need to make is do I want copper or fiber? One SKU, one support call, time to value in minutes. So this is not about us going up and saying, can I check off all these check boxes in a matrix? This is about a transformational experience. I think Chris actually said it best. It's like we want to bring sort of like the smartphone to the data center, and we believe we can do that with EVO Rail.
And it is a very good question. I think it's something that we'll get quite a bit. And I think to Marnie's point, right, there's plenty of room for innovation. There's plenty of room for multiple players in the market. What we're doing in the hyper-converged space is giving customers a vast degree of choice as well.
Yep.
Right. So now they can, if they can go with a partner that they prefer, right? And not saying they didn't prefer the others, but they just have more choice, and choice is always great for the market. Last question.
Earlier you mentioned that you're going to support external storage. Is that a capability at first customer ship for the various partners?
Well, if it's not, obviously, if it's not fiber channel connect in, absolutely. We've got customers that are doing it today in the early access program.
And can you tell me, are you going to enable capabilities where customized plugins for the various storage arrays can be used to expose innovative capabilities at the storage array?
Now we're starting to get into roadmap, and I'm going to say let's hold off those conversations. But these are all things we're looking at. Like we were talking about your smartphone. You just download an app from the marketplace. One of the things we're looking at as well is allowing a broader ecosystem to participate even beyond the ones that have got a hardware platform in play through potentially a marketplace. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. I mean, that's really the key to delivering this iOS-like experience to the data center, right? And for us, from an innovation perspective, right, when we can only innovate so fast, but when we provide an extensible framework, a truly extensible framework that allows hundreds to thousands of partners, right, to do their own custom innovations, just like an app store, right? Now you just expose innovation at orders of magnitude that VMware could never do alone as a company. So that is the customer requirement. We understand it intimately well, and like Mornay said, stay tuned. Guys, you were great. Really appreciate the questions. Thank you very much.